All right, folks, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for Lunch with Lucy. My name is Kate Remillard, and I'm on the marketing team with VHT Studios, and I'm happy to be here with you today as your MC. Before we get started, I just need to mention that we have everybody muted except for our panelists. So if you have questions for our guests, just please add them to the Q&A box on your screen, and we will answer those as we go and at the end of the session. You'll also want to hang around to the end where we'll announce the 5 winners of the free lunch. You must be present to win, and we are giving away $25 DoorDash gift cards. So with that, I'm happy to introduce the woman herself, Lucy Edwards.
Thank you very much, Kate. Thank you. Welcome to our talk show, Lunch with Lucy. And our guest today is Brian DeWitt. I've known Brian for years and years. We have great working relationship. So Brian is a partner at Prism Digital Communications Company. It's integrated direct marketing automation solutions services company. So it's absolutely great marketing direction. And when I met Brian first, we were all about print. That was years and years ago, but things have changed so much. So here's Brian.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Thank you, Lucy.
So today we are going to talk about different marketing directions. And it's, as a matter of fact, our topics are completely different from everything we've been talking in the last few months. So I'm very excited to bring up those questions. And Brian also has some really interesting slides and statistics. So let's begin let's define integrated marketing and how it impacts brokers and sales agents building their business.
All right. Well, good afternoon. And that's a great question, Lucy. So, we get, and this, we talk about this all the time. When we think about real estate marketing today and integrated marketing in general, it's the utilization of print, digital, social, and other communication elements. And then when we think about what they are, print, obviously direct mail, collateral for property brochures, door hangers, calendars, anything that's brand centric, both from a personal agent standpoint, supporting transactional marketing, and then from a CRM perspective, which we'll talk about. And then when we think about digital, obviously YouTube is a huge player today, right? And we think about the second most used search engine in the world is YouTube, which is owned by Google, the largest search engine in the world. So when we think about digital marketing, it's not just ads online, it's also where people can be integrated to real estate. I can drive people to look at video tours from a postcard and get them to a website that I can gauge further. And then when we think about social, social media has changed. Certainly with the pandemic, there's been a proliferation of people on social, but the challenge with that is that per market stats, the 1,600% increase in messaging online, the user population hasn't increased 1,600%. So when we think about those numbers, there's a lot more content out there that we're fighting for that view share. But ultimately, the integrated marketing approach is incorporating the multiple channels that can drive outcomes and build your brand in front of people, promote your listings, your transactions, and your value proposition. And that is a key thing. And then when we look about it from a broker standpoint or a real estate agent standpoint, there are common elements that your brokerage having market share is an important thing, but you as a real estate agent want to have the most market share. And building your business requires some consistency in that execution. And I think as we talk today about that, we'll get into some really good nitty-gritty details on that.
Well, yeah, and I agree with you completely. We are, our company, VHT Studios, we're a strong believer in videos, for example, and therefore YouTube is extremely important for us. The social media, I mean, regardless whether you like it or not, you're going to learn to love it. So social media is very important. And then here is the video again. So we definitely heavily involved in that direction. And I even have some videos on my channel. But I would
Right.
also like to.
Can I jump in on that, Lucy, for 1 second before we go to the next question?
Yeah.
So that's a really important feature, right? Because here's the other challenge, right? So for brokers and sales associates, competing against a Zillow on a search, right? If you Google search a property address, you're always going to see Zillow coming up. You're going to see Realtor.com coming up. You're not going to compete individually in that space. The brokerage level, they certainly can and do. But when we think about the power that you have in your communications and how you use social and driving people to your personal brand is something that's important. And, again, remember that it doesn't happen overnight, or as I called it, the field of dreams syndrome, build it and they shall come. It does take time. It does take remarketing to make that happen. And, to plug what VHT does, when you get a video tour and you have your property website, you can share that through a persistent tab. And you can use that persistent tab over and over again. So if I'm looking at posting something on Facebook, I can use my tour page, for example, and announce an open house, announce my new listing. I can send a follow-up to thank all the people that visited my open house. I can use it again to post to say, I want to acknowledge that I'm under contract and I had multiple offers, certainly in this market. So there's a lot of ways of creating engagement and elevating yourself, and it doesn't necessarily have to cost a lot of money, and it's something that you've already invested in. So I wanted to bring that up.
No, I totally agree with you. And that kind of brings us to another question. How do you differentiate? I've been practicing that word all morning today. How do you differentiate marketing execution for seller prospecting versus buyer prospecting?
Sure. So this is going to, this is a good question, because when we think about the business side of things and we think about buyer side, seller side, the one thing that I think the industry has to do a better job of as sales agents is we have to think about what is the dominant buying motive of our customer, right? So a dominant buying motive of a seller and a dominant buying motive of a buyer. And what both have in common is peace of mind. So when we think about peace of mind in real estate, no matter if I'm selling or buying, it's most likely for many people the single largest investment they do in their lifetime. Some people do it a couple times. Some people do it 30, 40 times. But ultimately, when we think about how we market to sellers and buyers, we want to leverage and create a peace of mind factor. And that's where you as a real estate agent, for example, in what you do, the success factors you had, someone that's only done one transaction in their career has the same potential and opportunity to create peace of mind versus someone that's done $1 billion of transactions, right? And there's a lot of information that you can get from the brokerage level on transactions as well as the MLS, and giving that information out there. And on the sell side, we start thinking about how you market your listings, right? I don't rely on the MLS to sell my listings. I sell my listings. And how do you do that? I often, working with agents, find that some people really don't understand the tenets of an elevator pitch, right? What you do, how you do it, why you do it, who you do it for. And that's something that is really, really important that we get down more effectively, because I don't want to go on a sales pitch presentation. The first question the client asks me is about commission rates. I want the client to engage me about my knowledge and resources, right? And when we start thinking about sharing market information and ultimately why you are worth what you get paid on your deals is an important thing. And how you get there is how you establish value and peace of mind. On the buy side, it's the similar thing, but now it's about people looking to buy in a community. Some people know already where they want to buy, right? So they want to go into X town and X state. There's a reason why they want that, right? So then it comes into what is your experience there? And as a buy side person, what am I doing for my customers to help in the home inspection process, in the move-in process, in the getting updates done to the home? Same thing on the sell side. So when we start going into the details, it's really important that you as an agent think about how you can drive value and create that peace of mind. Because the other tidbit here is that no matter on the buyer sell side, the National Association of Realtors in its annual buyer seller guide always states about the number of referrals agents get from a great experience customers have. And on the buy side and the sell side, they get 6 referrals in 6 months. So if you say you're successful 30% of the time on engagement opportunities on 6 referrals, that's 2 potentially more transactions. What a great way to build your business. And if you go back to the virtue that I'm talking about, and sorry for this long-winded answer, creating peace of mind over and over again is what creates value and why people will keep coming to you.
That is absolutely, that is great information. Thank you so much, Brian. And then please, let's talk about what are the biggest drivers for success and what are the biggest obstacles, for success. We usually talk about all the positive, but obstacles really make the difference as well. Need to be prepared.
Sure. Well, I think that, today, all the big brokerages and even middle-sized brokerages have created, toolkits for their agents. So whether, if you're a large national brokerage, you generally have some type of web store that you're going to, you have a resource for marketing collateral. You have, whether you use it or not, you have an online component that's creating some potentially social campaigns. Facebook has made it accessible to your business page that you can boost ads and things like that. So there's certainly a plethora of opportunity for how you can send out communications. Using the Postal Service has its challenges, but ultimately we see great response rates increasing in direct mail. And the reason we're seeing more responses in direct mail since the pandemic is more people are home, less people are traveling. Some people go to the mailbox as a way to get out the door of their house, depending on where they live. So again, all these tools that are in front of you are there, and there's a lot of service providers like my company that are making things available. So I think from the opportunity standpoint, there's a lot there to pick and choose from. I think the challenges come down to two main factors, and I don't think budget is as expensive as people think it is. And then the other big factor is the time, right? And when we think about marketing, every real estate agent out there ultimately is an entrepreneur, right? You're an individual business owner. You got a lot of things. Selling real estate is complicated. It's time consuming. And when we start thinking about how do you allocate time to do the proper marketing and the follow-up, and if you're an individual or on a team, it can seem overwhelming. And I think it comes down to behavioral process of allocating those time slots that where you can do your marketing, doing farming versus doing transactional promotion versus doing all the other paperwork items and the scheduling that you have. It's complicated, but the discipline of time management is an obstacle, but it also can work to your benefit when you get a process down. And, the more automation that you can get from marketing partners to help you with that, whether it's automated, just listed, just sold, whether people at your office can help you with collecting images, that you get obviously from VHT and other providers. But the key is put a process in place, and you'd be amazed how quickly you can remarket and then take advantage of all the channels that are in front of you.
You just mentioned something very interesting when you were talking about farming, for example, or being consistent with your marketing strategy, providing postcards. You believe in postcards. I believe.
Absolutely.
I still do. I'm a dinosaur, but I love my print material. I think it is very important. And when someone is saying that everything is online now and younger people don't really appreciate the print and it should be all digital, but I personally believe that sometimes it's important to hold something in your hand. And when you receive the postcard, and you are doing it consistently, it works. The question I have for you, Brian, because I was with you a couple of weeks ago at one of the presentations, and you were discussing QR codes. And one of the questions today in polls, are you using QR codes and are you planning to use? And majority said, no, we don't see any positive direction in QR codes. But you taught us differently. Will you please share it with us?
Absolutely. So when QR codes first came out a few years ago, the generation of a QR code, it's a royalty-free technology, and I won't get into those details. But when it was released the first time, most people didn't know what it was. They assumed it was like a UPC symbol when you went to checkout and you scanned it at the cash register. People didn't really know the power of what a QR code was. Because of the proliferation and success of QR codes in Asia, Apple and Google on their device platform, they decided to standardize a QR code reader in the camera of a phone. So in the software. So if your phone, you can now have an iPhone 6. And if you've updated your software, which I'll get to this other answer in a second, then it doesn't matter what version of the phone you have. As long as your software is 11.0 or higher, your camera now can read a QR code. Since the pandemic, if you've been to Home Depot, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, if you've gotten takeout, if you've been to a restaurant, pretty much everyone's gone to a hands-free mechanism, which is a QR code to see a menu, to get tutorial information, things like that. We apply QR codes into our marketing, and we do it a little bit differently. Is we actually create unique QR codes for every address we mail to, for every mailing we mail to. And this gives us the ability to track the responses that are then going to a website. The benefit of a QR code is it's a call to action. And a call to action from a direct mail piece is whether it's call or text me or go to my website. If you think about yourselves on this call as a consumer, I was doing a meeting yesterday and I had 50 people in the room, believe it or not. It was the first in-person meeting of that size in some time. And everyone had their what in their hand? We all have our phones by us, right? Someone goes out and they come in their home and they're looking at their mail. And if they've been out in the public in the last 14 months and any opportunity, they've most likely seen the QR codes. We are seeing over 85% of responses on our mailings are people using the QR code on the card. So we are seeing activity on it. It is relevant. It has to be executed well, but people use it. There are billboards in Asia that are just a QR code, right? So as it continues and it's very successful in Europe and it's proliferating here in the States. So QR codes work. Like any marketing though, everyone needs to have a really good call to action, as we refer to CTAs. And when you think about that, if you're giving a web URL, the problem on many web URLs is that they're really long, right? So people have a hard time if they formatting that URL, or if you use a bit.ly to shorten it, it doesn't have any brand value to you. If you put a QR code on there and just tell people scan this QR code, most people understand what you're asking them to do and you will get the outcome. And not only does it have to go to a website, you could create QR codes as a D card that someone can call you or email you from. So we see a lot of opportunity with QR codes. We're seeing great success rates with the QR codes.
I have a question. Again, taking it from the webinar that you and I did together. You were talking about ability to collect the information from QR codes where the agent had full information about who received the card, who opened the virtual tour or the website for that particular agent, what is their phone number and the email address. The information was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, my company, what we do is we've integrated in other data sources. So when we mail out a card, we actually create a dynamic QR code that has tracking mechanisms to the address we're mailing to. And then we send our customers, they get an email telling the homeowner at this address just responded to your mailing. We collect that information in a dashboard that they log into. And then in there, we have the address link. When they click on the address link, we then tell them who resides in that home, in that residence, right? And then if they click on the names, they can get phone numbers if available to contact. So it's pretty tied in. And then when we're doing listing or transaction marketing and we're tied into your video tour or other video tours, we actually can track those videos. We provide a YouTube link or they can check to their channel. But because we're synchronized it through our web image IDs, we can actually get the information of people that posted to Facebook and all that. So now we're aggregating this data into one console area, which is really important because you can get paralysis by analysis when it comes to data and responses. So the idea is, how do you streamline it? And then more importantly is, how do you remarket to those people that are responding? Because anybody that responds to your mailing, if you would know the age, I was on a call just this morning with somebody and they did a postcard mailing. They had 354 postcards. They get 7 responses. And of the 7 responses, 6 were people that were 70 years of age or older, which to me tells me these are people thinking of selling, right? They're assessing the market. The other thing that, I talk to agents about all the time at the broker level and the individual agent level is, when we think about real estate transactions, I would ask anybody in this call, in your market, how many transactions were there in the last 2 years, all right? So I was at a meeting yesterday in a town of 10,000 people. It turned out there were 337 closed transactions in the previous year. I think the total dollar value was about $650 million, which and the GCI came out to a lot of good numbers. But when we think about real estate deals, it's not like doing marketing for selling a car, which is an expensive item, but financing is not the same premise as a home buy, right? So when you get into those considerations, it's not like, honey, let's go buy a house or sell a house today. People are in a longer phase. And in the market right now, we don't have the relocation business happening, right? Companies aren't relocating people with the pandemic. That will change. So when we think about all the factors in marketing, Lucy, right? So the QR codes help because we get better insights on people. And then we understand that, you know, in a town of 10,000 people, how many deals are really out there in a given year? And I tell people all the time, somebody's timeline for buying could be a foot long or it could be a mile long, right? When we think about the pathway to getting there, it's the consistency and the execution and really the fortitude of everybody on this call that is looking to build their business to have that fortitude, to keep with it, keep marketing and build it, because it will happen. I've seen people do 1,000 card mailings and get little or no response. I've seen people do 50 mailings and get 20 responses. But I know that people that do it consistently have great outcomes.
Well, consistency is the key. I believe in consistent marketing strategy, in being on top of it. But I think what you are talking about, Brian, is a great lead generation that is really, that's what we're all about. And that's what all of our clients, real estate agents are looking for. So I think it is a new direction, what you are creating at your company. And I personally think it's absolutely wonderful, and everyone should really look into it and take advantage of it.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say on that, you know, again, I think everybody out there is, you know, whatever you're doing from a workflow standpoint, you know, the key is that how you get in front of people. In the New Jersey market where we are, there's a broker that does billboards and has had a very successful campaign that has grown exponentially. And I'm not going to name names, but there's a reason why they're investing in the billboards, because they're obviously getting responses, right? Not everybody on this call can afford to take billboards out. What is a billboard in a mailbox? It's a postcard, right? So the ability of getting your brand out there, I just think that people can't underestimate the power of that interaction and the repetition of seeing a brand. And whether you use a QR code or whatever your call to action is, you need to measure that. When people call you, you know, I would be asking people, well, how did you find out? What drove you to call me? I love the fact that you did. Oh, I got your mailing. Oh, I saw you online. Oh, a friend of mine told me to give you a call. You should be tracking that information and really getting a better feel for how people are learning about you. Because I think oftentimes we get excited that we got the call, but we're not thinking how we got the call. And I just want to remind everybody that importance. So anyway,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is important because you need to know your return on investment. If you are investing in your social marketing, in social media, if you are investing in postcards, yes, absolutely. And I would like to ask you, what are success rates and factors based on your knowledge?
Sure. So when we think about direct mail, for example, direct mail on what we call a house list, so, you know, a non-solicitation, I send something out. General direct mail, we see response rates 9% on average. There are some higher that when we get more selective, someone's responding to a campaign, they ask for more information. I've had campaigns that have had 30, even 50% response rates where people actually bought the product. Real estate marketing is definitely skewed because we're sending farming out, and unless we, you know, have really good target data or the person has clearly indicated that they are buying in the next 6 months, it's a longer prorated process. I see on average about a 2.8% response rate on direct mail. When we integrate it, which we do for our clients, you know, with social and digital, then we see a higher response rate. But what I will tell everybody, and this information comes from the Direct Marketing Association, you know, direct mail gets higher response rates on average than digital. It's more expensive to send out than it is to do a digital campaign, right? So I get it. When we think about the return on marketing investment, these are things you have to evaluate as a business owner. But ultimately, direct mail does create awareness. And if you really synchronize that direct mail with your online presence, both on social and in digital, it will drive the outcome. So I think going in, and like I said before, understand what your market opportunity is and say, if there was 300 real estate transactions in my market last year, and I want to fight for a piece of that pie, you know, what is that pie worth to me? And then that will help you better define what your budget should be, which then leads to your success factors, right? Setting the right expectation on your business is really important. And knowing that many of you don't have a lot of necessarily free money that you're just going to keep throwing into marketing. You know, again, it's easy for me to sit here and tell you, but I do see, we do thousands of campaigns a year. I do see responses. I do get those success stories from agents telling, you know what, I did that mailing and I did what you said in the follow-up and I got a transaction. And these are people that have done 1 or 2 in a year to people that do 40, 50, 60 in a year and plus. So it does work because they keep coming back and buying more. And it's identifying what percentage of your budget you want to allocate for it. But to get to the success factor answer is over time, you got to see in a year's time, you got to see benefit to your marketing. And I don't believe in it just because somebody else does and has success that it's always good for you. I will tell you that demographically in the 45 to 54 age group, 85% of people say they're more likely to respond to direct mail. I look at real estate transactions right now. What's the percentage of people in that demographic that are buying or selling real estate? It's very high, right? So that to me lends itself to why that's a viable channel. It's not exclusive. There's not a channel out there that from a marketing standpoint, in my personal and professional opinion, that should be exclusive to anybody. You know, Zillow's powerful, and I know a lot of people invest in Zillow leads, and how many of those leads are exclusive, and or if it's your listing and then someone says, I want to contact the agent, are you going to be contacted for that listing? And I realized in our seller community as a selling agent, listing agent, you know, my ecosystem is I do need other agents to sell my listings, but I also, you know, it would be nice that if I could go to my client and represent the buy side as well. So there's a lot of factors that impact that, you know, doing strong marketing and consistent marketing will bring people the value back that they're looking for.
Well, for so many years, Prism was involved in print material. Now you are diversifying your marketing strategy for your agents. Do you see the shift from brochure printing to more online, or do you still have, I know that we have mutual clients and they stay with their 4 and 2-page brochures and they're not saying goodbye anytime soon. They love it and they see the great return on investment. So what's your feedback?
So I think oftentimes brochures were more for sellers than it was for buyers, right? And I think, you know, the going on a listing appointment and talking and then, you know, these are the things that you do, right? And then again, going back to what I said before, it's really important that on that listing presentation, everyone's walking in pretty much with the same market comps, right? So then you have to start differentiating your value proposition and what you're going to do differently. So your professional photography, your direct mail, your digital, all that marketing, right? Now, things that we're doing that we're seeing success with print collateral is, for example, you know, you create floor plans, right? And someone has a floor plan, a simple property brochure with a QR code that someone can scan on it, and now they can get more details. Or you go into the Matterport, right? So you have a Matterport or you have a video, and now people can use that brochure as a way of creating a vehicle to create more engagement. And so we're seeing more of that. We're promoting more of that because, again, that's a valuable tool. I like brochures that are portable. You know, we do some agents with very high-end luxury, you know, multi-million-dollar listings. They're doing beautiful booklets that we produce, but there are other agents that we make a portable brochure. We put a QR code on it, and that takes them to their tour page or floor plan page. And it's creating a lot of value because when that person that looked at the property is now out of the house, they're looking at another property. How are they thinking of your listing? How are they thinking of, you know, how they can fit their family, or what were the room dimensions again? And they start thinking about their furniture. So there's a lot of factors that if you could create an interactive connection on your property brochure, the utility value of that brochure has just been elevated significantly. And plus, you look a lot smarter to those sellers when you tell them how you're helping the buy side better understand why they should buy their home, right? And there's a lot of value there. We'll also see now open houses will start coming back as the pandemic, you know, is coming, God willing, to an end, and we can get our society back open and full. So that will happen, and I think that will increase the demand. But I think we learned some lessons here, and one of the lessons is create more value, use a brochure, not just to have a print piece sitting there at an open house table, use it that it creates value. Because remember, the buyer coming into that open house that sees that brochure is a potential seller. And there's certainly a referral. And they're going to tell somebody, wow, look at this cool brochure I picked up at this open house or that I received from this agent. And that goes back to your brand equity and how you're constantly building your brand and all the marketing executions that you do.
Yeah, and brand differentiator is extremely important. And that's all we are talking about lately is the importance of your brand and building your brand and make yourself unique and special for your buyers and your sellers.
Absolutely. Let's think about this. I'll leave, you know, this last thought is that, you know, there's a lot of brokerages out there. There's a lot of sales associates out there. And you have to ask the fundamental question, why you, right? And when you say that to somebody, you then have to market that to people. Why you? And this is where I go back to like my early Dale Carnegie sales training many years ago. If there was a way that you could sell your home for more money and faster, you'd want to know about it, wouldn't you? Who's going to say no to that question, right? But then you got to back it up. And I think oftentimes we don't think that way. And I just think that, you know, it's a very important methodology to apply about why you, and you got to think about, and, you know, people are less focused on your rewards. I expect you to have ability, right? If you're a real estate agent, I expect that. Now it's, you know, really turning the table a little bit about how you help other people, right? And I think that's a story that often gets overlooked because now we all want to be associated with successful people. And I heard a story yesterday of someone that was in a market and they were talking about someone that gets all this business and the clients are frustrated because they're never available, but they're getting the business because they have great brand equity and that in itself sells, right? So how do you get there? Well, there's a lot of ways that you can, but I think, again, you know, if you can back it up all the time, you are going to be immensely successful and you will have that incremental constant increase to your business.
Do we have any questions, Kate? Can you check?
Yeah, I don't think we have any questions. And in fact, we're kind of over time. So I
Out
think
of time, I know,
probably
I
a
saw
good
that.
time to wrap up. Yeah, Brian, do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap it up, or we're good?
No, I would say everybody, I encourage you, you know, get out there and market and, you know, realize that marketing has many executions, do it as an integrated approach, and it will lead to your success. Set the right expectations, follow through on it. But don't forget, when you put things on Facebook, you know, you want people to comment. The more people that comment, you'll get more outcomes out of Facebook because only 8% of your friend population sees what you post natively. So just different things that you can do to create more engagement. And I wish you all much success.
Thank you so much, Brian.
And thank you for your time.
Yeah, a lot of knowledge packed in to this show. And I do want to just add that we're going to add a link to the chat with a survey, if you don't mind participating in that. And then let me announce really quick the 5 winners of our $25 DoorDash. Let's see here. We've got Scott Rose, Suzanne Semino, Tim Casey, Cheryl McAuliffe, and Sophia Menahem. So congrats to you guys. You can look for that tomorrow in your inbox from DoorDash. Be sure to visit vht.com/learn to register for our next Lunch with Lucy. It's on May 26th, and we'll be speaking with Dan Fellers of Matterport. So we're going to dive in deep, 3D tours and just how to leverage those Matterport tours. So it'll be super interesting. You won't want to miss it. And that's all. So have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Everybody. Yeah, and
thank you. Appreciate your time, everybody. Lucy, good to be with you as always. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you very much. And please go to vht.com/learn to also watch other videos that we have, our previous Lunch with Lucy, our previous guests, and also some interviews. It's a really cool channel. Of course it is. So please visit. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.